Um, He's Miss Sujata Salem. She is a UTD-CS alumna, and he has been working with Khan Academy, and she is very good with, or has a lot of experience with fintech and educational technology. And she is here to share her journey for how much ever longer she has been here. You studied here in 91, right?
Yeah, 91 to 93.
91 to 93. So he's going to take you through her journey of how she ended up here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Priya and Dr. J, for inviting me and arranging for me to be here. Oh, I can try. Is it better?
Looking better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So as Priya said, I graduated from UT Dallas with a master's in computer science. And when I graduated, I actually had no idea what my career was going to look like. And the goal today is actually to walk you through what that journey looked like and all of the different, changes and the years of change. So this presentation or this talk is not about, what should you be learning, what job should you be looking at, and what title you should be focused on, but it's more about building habits and a mindset and the instincts that make you valuable in any era. So I'll share a little bit about myself, my journey, the lessons that I learned from that, and bring it all back to the moment that we are in, and then conclude with a summary and some personal learnings as well. So I had, I think, a nonlinear career path. So as I said, I graduated from here. Someone mentioned 1993, so that's like, guess, 30 odd years ago. Many of you weren't around then. And my main aim after graduation was to get a job, any job. I had to make a living. I had to pay back student loans. So what I want to share is that none of this was planned. Uh, Graduated, and the first job that I ended up getting was a tech support engineer. And this was at a organization that built a trading room platform. And moved from that into becoming a software engineer, moved into fintech, uh, moved from dev support to quality engineering, became a product engineering leader, and moved from fintech into edtech, and that's where I am now. So what you'll see is, the jobs change, the domain change, the title change, the organizations change. But what stayed common throughout this entire journey was what I was doing, which was leveraging technology to solve problems and staying focused on the problems themselves. So when I was in university, nobody really asked me in school, how do you build a career that outlasts any of these technological changes? You've seen this, past few years, and it's been happening for multiple decades, is technologies come and go, frameworks get replaced, languages fall in and out of fashion. So what is the thing that actually carries you forward? And that is what today is about. So I'll say this again. It's about building the habits, the mindset, and the instincts that make you valuable in any era. So these are the eras that I've walked through and experienced. The fourth one we are all experiencing right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I was doing during each of these, what I learned, and what you can take away from that as well. So I think, yeah, what was this? I was working, yes. So I was working at a fintech, and the whole aim then, the internet had just been launched, and, everybody was building websites and everything was available on the web. So the goal here of the team that I was working on was, wouldn't it be cool if you could build an application where you could access any of your financial data? It could be your bank account information. It could be if you're investing in stocks, your investment portfolio. If you're working for an organization that was, for profit and gave you stocks, it could be your, a company stock. It could be your retirement plan. And you laugh and you'll say, hey, but we already have that. But back in the day, there was no one place to actually get to this. You had to log into 5, 6 different websites. You'd get bank account here, retirement account here, something else there. So this is what we wanted to build. So this actually shifted from building for, the personal computer. Back in the day, it was everything was on your local computer. You had a CD disk that you put the software in and you booted it up, and that's what you used, to everything being available on the internet. So what did I learn from this? That you had to actually step back and look beyond just the constraints of a local PC. If things were in the web, then what what did you control? You didn't control a whole lot. You had to think about, networks, because now you're accessing data that is not available locally. You have to think about failure states. You have to think about ways users are going to use this in ways you hadn't anticipated. And you have to think about security as well, because this is personal finance data. So all of these things I was not taught in school. This is something that you had to learn on the fly. So it was almost like I had graduated, I had learned something, but when this happened, you come back, you start again from scratch and start learning again. And just when we thought we had everything figured out, people's phones became their personal computers. So this is the mobile era. So by this time, I was working as a quality engineer, and I was working in an organization that was building tools for small businesses to be able to do, their accounting and payroll. So a small business is, someone who's running a business because they're really passionate about it. It's 1 or 2 people. The main focus is to be able to run the business. So think about it this way: you're a landscaper, and you're, building, landscape for someone's home. You're spending your time figuring out, what materials you need. You're going to the garden store to buy that. You're buying all of that. You have to figure out the invoicing, but in the meantime, you also have to pay employees. So what we thought was, why not leverage what's available on the phone and give them the ability to do that with a mobile phone? So now you're in the middle of, paving someone's backyard, and you remember it's Thursday afternoon, I need to run payroll because I have to pay all my employees. You don't have to go back to your office, sit on your desktop computer and do that. You just do it on the phone. So this really changed my job and my responsibilities, because now you suddenly have to think about the user experience. This is something I never really thought about. How is a small business owner going to be using this? And you have to think about, form factor. You could have a mobile phone, you could have a tablet, you could be running Android, you could be running iOS. How do you build and design with all of that in mind? And again, it was about how are they going to be using it? So what I shared before, right? My CS curriculum didn't tell me about any of this. All of this you had to kind of figure out on the fly. So what it really taught me was focusing on the user's context, focusing on the problem that the user is trying to solve, and not focusing as much on the perfect solution itself, but the problem. Focus on the problem, and then you'll figure out how to solve that. And that was really what kind of moved me from thinking about the solution into figuring out, okay, what is the problem, and how do you actually figure out what the problem is? How do you define how to solve it? Then leveraging technology to solve it. So the next era that I'm going to talk a little bit about is the cloud era. So again, this is something that you just take for granted, but there were days where back in the day when you had to build your own server farm. You actually had to have buildings, you had to have physical machines in there, you had to have all of that. And if you didn't have the money for it, you couldn't host any of that. So when Amazon came up with Amazon Web Services, I think Google followed next, Oracle as well. Suddenly, everybody was able to just, provision environments, deprovision them, and just use it however they wanted to. So the role that I was in was product engineering at again, a financial technology organization. And I was a software engineering leader by that time, but the role of a software engineer had shifted because your responsibility didn't end as soon as you had built something and shipped it. You had to think about, okay, what happens once it's launched? You had to figure out, what does this cloud infrastructure look like? What happens to the users? Ability to track users, ability to look at, performance, latency, availability, errors, all of that. So the role started expanding to becoming not just building software, but also becoming more of an operational engineer. So you have to think about things like, CI/CD, always on systems, monitoring, triggering alerts, things like that. So the lesson here was that the cloud didn't make things simpler. It actually ended up making certain things that were hard easy, but it also introduced a whole new set of things that we had to think about. And so the engineers who succeeded didn't treat it like a black box, but truly understood, like, how is it built and what can I do to expand my role to be able to leverage the cloud. And now this is where we are, the generative AI era. This is what we are living through right now. Um, by this time, and I'm still there, I was leading product engineering at Khan Academy. So for those of you who are not familiar with Khan Academy, it's a not-for-profit edtech with a mission of free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And Khan Academy has been around since 2008. This is even before AI. We have a lot of, pedagogically and academically high quality content. And we also have a lot of statistical data that shows that if you practice on Khan Academy, spend 30 minutes a week practicing on Khan Academy, you will, as a student, see growth in your learning outcomes. So how did we think about leveraging AI? Now, remember, we started looking at this back in 2022 when before OpenAI had even launched ChatGPT. So the focus again was, what is our mission? We want to grow learning outcomes. We are already doing that well. How can AI help us do that better? So we knew that, when students learn at their own pace, when students practice till they reach proficiency, and when students engage with real-time feedback and support, they will see a growth in learning. So how can AI help with that? So how can AI help you learn at your own pace? But AI will drive insights and AI will drive a personalized learning path for you. You can practice till you reach proficiency, and then AI will provide you, a way to assess you, and AI will also scale the practice. And then engaging with real-time feedback, you can use an AI-assisted writing coach or an AI-assisted tutor. But not everything we tried worked out. What we realized is just providing access to AI, and this was like a controlled, chat support. We call it Khanmigo, an assistant for students, like a tutor. It didn't really work. You had to constrain it really to the context of the problem that the student was trying to solve. You had to put in some prompts in there because, in the beginning, it was a whole lot of just typing and things. Younger students are not really good at typing. So can you prompt them with, okay, are you stuck? Do you need help with something? And that ended up helping us. The other thing we also realized is AI, and I was sharing this in an earlier conversation, is still, large language models are still not good at generating quality education content. So that was another thing we tried and it didn't succeed. So we scanned that too. I'll say this, in the beginning, there was a lot of hype, and we also got, enamored by that shiny new object of large language models. And we tried experimenting and playing around with it all the time. And then we realized that we were actually looking at a solution and trying to find a problem to fit that solution to. And that was the wrong approach. And that's when we kind of stepped back and looked at what was working really well and how to supplement it instead. So I kind of shared my journey with you, and I'm going to shift now into kind of the lessons that I learned and I took away. And I'll walk through each of these and why I think it's important. And again, these things are not things I knew going in. They're things that I learned. And sometimes I learned it the hard way. I made mistakes. I still make mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes. And I also realized that every time something new happened, you're kind of, resetting and starting from scratch, and that's okay. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So foundations, why are foundations important? And I was talking to Dr. J as well, some of the courses that he teaches are basically the fundamentals of computer science, data structures, algorithms, systems thinking. All of this is really important. Many of you are probably using, an AI-assisted IDE. How would you know that the code that it's generating is right if you don't fundamentally understand what that looks like? What is right versus wrong? How do you know it's secure? How do you know it's going to scale? So that is really important for you to know. There's always, the temptation to ignore that and focus on the cool stuff. But the fundamentals, the foundations are really, really important. Growth mindset. So as I said before, there were times when you look at something and you don't know anything about it. You're almost starting from scratch again. And that is really important. You never want to be in a place where you think you know everything and you're resistant to learning something new. Because if you do that, you are going to get left behind. I think all of us in STEM, in tech, we know that technology changes rapidly. And there's a lot of hype, I'll give you that. But if you don't, give yourself the time to learn it, if you don't make yourself uncomfortable and figure out, okay, what is this? How do I figure out how to use it? How do I figure out where to apply it? It's going to be detrimental to your own career and to your own growth. Real learning begins after you graduate. You have a lot of structured learning in school. You also have project-based learning. But the kind of environment you see when you're actually out of college, when you're working, it's very, very different. The engineers I've seen who were successful were the ones who chose to keep learning, who never said that they were done learning. And this is something I think I've shared multiple times, right? Technology is a means to an end, right? It's not what you should be focusing on. Focus on the problem that you're trying to solve. Whatever it is, you will find something that you're passionate about. For me, it was in fintech, which then transitioned to edtech. But focus on the end user, focus on what they're trying to solve, and then figure out the best way to solve it. In education, for us, the stakes are really high to get this right because we're working with students. These are K through 12 students, underage. So it doesn't matter how cool of a technology it is, if it doesn't increase learning outcomes. And that is why I really thrive in product engineering, is because I get to stay close to the problem. I get to stay close to the user. And the technology is used in service of something. And that is what you have to keep front and center. All right. And this sort of segues into this final lesson, which is every era, whether it was internet, whether it was mobile, cloud, and now generative AI, there is a ton of hype. And the hype is there, and that bubble bursts, and then you kind of come back to reality. That doesn't mean that there's nothing important in that new technology or in that new shift. But you have to be able to differentiate the hype from something that you can truly pick and leverage. Uh, I think you're seeing that now with generative AI. You see a lot of people talk about it. You have, few organizations who are responsible for building all the frontier models. You hear the hype. There's a lot of anxiety. I feel it too. People I work with feel it too. It is changing how we work. It's changing everything. But you need to be able to, again, differentiate between what can you leverage from it and what should you ignore. It again, I'll say that again, follow the problem, not the hype. Stay focused on what you're trying to solve and then how you can leverage this technology. So I'll pause here for a bit because this, I think, is something that all of us are feeling right now. As I said, we are all anxious. We don't know how things are going to shape up. We, whether it's me in towards, end of a 30 year or to 30 plus year of a career, it's y'all who are still in college, still learning, people mid-career. It's going to change how all of us, any of us, do things. And there is a lot of uncertainty about what this means to CS careers. And I don't have the answers for that. It is there. Now, all I'll say is there is, again, a lot of hype with this, as I said before, and we have to acknowledge that. You, I think, are now in an environment where you have a lot of guidance and you have teachers and you have colleagues and you have access to a lot of things that, someone like me didn't have to 30 odd years ago. So leverage that, lean on each other, lean on your professors, lean on your fellow students, because that is the best way to learn. So again, quick snapshot. These are the 4 things worth remembering. And this is kind of what I took away from my career to date. So what are some of the things I did I feel made me successful? I was really passionate about computer science. I think I got very lucky that I got into this profession. I really enjoyed coding. I really enjoyed, back then it was learning new languages, understanding the theory behind computer science. And I think that was really beneficial to me because I enjoyed what I did. The other was, as I said, a growth mindset or a learning mindset. Don't think that you stop learning when you leave college, right? I think your true learning starts when you graduate. Look at every opportunity as a way to learn. Don't think of it as I don't know something, so I'm not going to raise my hand for it. It should be quite the opposite. Say, raise your hand, volunteer to do it. Say, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. And do the hard things, struggle. Because when you struggle, you truly learn. And don't just survive, learn to thrive, because that will also help you. And as I mentioned before, surround yourself with the right people, the people who push you, people who support you, people who are very positive, and people who will demand the best from you. And it's mutual because sometimes you will do that for others. And I want to leave you with this, I want you to dream. I want you to think big. I know it's still a very anxious time right now with everything that's going on, but you have your lives before you. You have your careers before you. And, be passionate about what you like to do and dream big. And as I said, I didn't plan any of this. This is sort of what worked for me. And again, I shared the 4 things that I took away from my 30-year career and some of the things I felt personally made me successful. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
The inspirational talk. I know we have probably a lot of still have a lot of questions, but before we do that, there is a survey that we wanted to basically participate, and we have some gifts as a raffle. We're going to be participating in that, and you're going to be winning. We have 3 participants that's going to win, and I think you would be able to see it in the chat if you can bring it on that as well. That would be awesome. I'm going to send it again just in case. A little bit later, so you know it is. Can you see that? Go to the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you want to do that?
I don't see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it right now. So meanwhile, if you have anybody have any questions, please raise your hand, you can ask your question.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you so much for your inspirational talk. So could you please, I mean, you can please explain how to use AI in unscripted right now?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me, so I stopped sharing. So this is something I'd shared with some of Dr. J's students earlier. So yeah, so I think, yeah, I can share this also, totally. Oh, sorry, wrong share. Yes. Okay. All right. So I think I talked a little bit about this, right? So as I mentioned at Khan Academy, we've been around for since 2008, and we already had, proven sort of RCTs as well as statistical data that showed that practice on Khan Academy, 30 minutes per week led to showed learning outcomes for students. And so what was it? Learning at your own pace, practice till you reach proficiency, and then engaging with real-time support and feedback. So what we ended up doing was, supplementing that with AI. And what that looks like is this is what a personalized learning path looks like for a student. So if you noticed on the right, there's a bunch of things that a student can work on. So you have to start with equations and variables. You finish that, you move on to the. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, I have to learn.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, all right. So this is one of the things we did, right? This is a personalized learning path assisted by AI. This is another one, which is you have rich practice content on Khan Academy. So Khanmigo, which is the AI tutor on the side, works with you to help you practice. So for example, let's say a teacher has asked me to work on this, solve for M. I'm not really sure how to go about doing this. So if you look on the left-hand side, there's a little call out there which says, where should I start? Because I may just be lost. So when I click on that, Khanmigo, which is the AI assistant, will kind of walk me through, okay, what do you need to be able to solve for M? Kind of how do you solve this equation? So step by step, working with me without revealing the answer. So this is another example where, you know, st student is trying to work on a problem with Khanmigo, not really interested, just wants to get the answer. So it says, just give me the answer. So we've put in prompts and constraints to say that don't give the answer away, but keep helping the student, right? Keep asking them, okay, where are you stuck? What didn't you understand? And kind of move them forward step by step. So this is sort of a few things that we've done at Khan Academy to leverage, AI to help with learning. Yeah. You mean hints on Khan Academy or hints with, let's say, a chat GPT or? Yeah. So if you use hints on Khan Academy, then it just kind of gives you sort of a hint on how to solve it. It's very similar. So what Khanmigo uses behind the scene is those hints. But when you take a hint, then you actually get the problem marked as not correct because you've asked for help. So this way, because it's interactive and the hints are also static, right? It's here, there is some amount of intelligence that the large language model has and the constraints that we've put into Khanmigo that it might customize the hints for you. It might customize it based on, uh, your language preference, your grade level reading, or your interests themselves. So that we found increases engagement. And so that interaction is what makes it easier for a student to be able to kind of move forward. And what we're also testing for is if a student has used Khanmigo to answer a question, what is the probability of them getting the next question correct without using Khanmigo? And that is kind of a success metric that we are hoping to get to, which is keep increasing next question correctness every time you use Khanmigo. Yeah, so I'm going to totally date myself. So when I first started, this was in tech support, and this was for trading room systems, and they were very particular about their data. So the only way you could kind of figure out, like if they had a problem or if the network was not working well or the software wasn't working, you actually had to go physically to their office, and then after the trading time was done, my job started at 5 p.m. and I had to work through the night to debug what was going on. So that kind of really pushed me because I was away from my familiar environment where I had my own, workspace and all of that. I had to go in and I had to figure out ways to read log files and kind of parse that out. And, different organizations, configured the software differently. So that was the first challenge, which is, just get out of the familiarity of how you usually use your tools, put yourself in a different environment, and then try to do your job. So that was, I think, the first technical challenge that I ran into. And in some ways, I think it also pushed me to get out of my comfort zone and to, tackle things that were not clearly defined, dealing with ambiguity, for example.
So in Khan Academy right now, do you feel like because of AI, need to re-engineer the product, especially the backend? Front end is fine. Or is it something like, okay, nice to re-engineer, but it's not required? Which
Yeah, so before, just around, I think 2022, 23, we actually, Khan Academy, because it was sort of built in a very scrappy way, was a monolith. So the front end, the back end, there was no separation. So the UI, business logic, back end, it was all kind of in one repo and one monolith. So we actually underwent, I think, a 2.5 year project where we broke up the backend into different separate services. So we had already done some of that, tech debt payback, so to speak. So I think that really helped us. And then the front end also, we had started shifting away from using jQuery to React and building, single page applications. So I think by the time we started leveraging large language models, we already had some of that separation. It wasn't fully done quite yet. So most of our focus ended up being shifting to building with large language models instead of re-architecting the current stack, because I think it was already there. Another test for us was the pandemic, because I think, what was it? March 2020, schools just stopped and everybody went virtual. And then the traffic on Khan Academy really spiked, but we didn't go down. So that gave us data to say that architecture is fine, code is also fine, and we didn't really need to focus on it at that time.
so you are still like React? Or
Yes. Yeah, still React. Yes.
Looking back to 1993, what professors do you remember? I would say some of the students here might remember.
Yeah.
20 years from now.
Well, he's over here, Jody.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I remember three of them really well. And Sridhar, I think you'll also remember some of them. I think it was Dr. Venki who taught us operating systems. Yeah. And I forget his last name. I think it was Dr. Ivan.
I forget.
Yes, yes. I think computer architecture. Yes, digital logic design. I remember him really well because the end of the course, we had to solve this problem, and it was like designing, I think, a circuit diagram with the least number of gates. And whoever got, yes, and whoever got the least number of gates got the highest score.
Progressive.
Yes. Simply, yes. Yeah.
Dr. Mike Turbin, who used to teach us it was the gateway to C and Unix.
Yes.
I don't know if you are.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
very fondly remember
Yeah.
him.
Yes.
Waiting for the third course.
Yeah, the third one, and I don't remember the name, but it was, he taught us the theory of programming languages.
Ramesh?
No, I think he was Middle Eastern.
I think it's
Okay, I don't remember the name. Yeah.
This was tough.
Okay. Yeah. And my unofficial professor also was Dr. Sridhar here. Yes. Who would help us with homework and assignments and things like that. Yes.
So would you say the assignments at the time were challenging? Like, you didn't have Google, you didn't
No.
have even internet, right?
Nothing. Yeah.
First way you encountered.
Yeah.
How were the assignments at the time?
I think they were really challenging, and I think especially the way they were taught, because I remember I had one of the earliest tests that we had, and the professor told us it's an open book exam. I'm like, oh, fantastic. All the answers are available, so I don't even have to study. That was a rude awakening. That's not what open book really meant. So it really made you focus on, understanding the principles. Yes, there were books and you could go back, but because you didn't have the internet, you had to rely a lot on each other to be able to, reinforce uh, kind of what someone knew and someone else didn't know. So there was a lot of learn, teach, learn. And I think that reinforced kind of the subjects for us. Because otherwise, just ask Google and Google gives you the answer. It's very easy to do. Yeah. Yes.
And have.
Yes. Yeah.
Lot of round table
Yes. Discussions.
discussion.
Yes.
Over those.
I was roommates with Sujata. I did electrical engineering from this school, so same year, so I can say. I think that reinforced how you learned with others and how you actually collaborated. I think that takes you a long way with what you do with your technology too, right? You have to collaborate. I'm asking, and thank you very much for jumping in, and thank you for being here. I'm asking these questions mostly for the students because I feel that at the time, you learn about in a different way. Yes, this getting together, brainstorming was a common thing. While now we are mostly in front of the computer.
Yeah.
Asking these AI agents or whatever we're asking, but we are missing this whole interaction and
Yes.
exchange of ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe for better or not, I don't know, but just something to think about. Yeah, it accelerates you, it augments your learning, but I'd say one thing, like Sujata mentioned this earlier, you need to know what good looks like. And if you don't understand what good looks like, you will just accept whatever garbage you get served. So I think learning and then breaking down to the first principles and really understanding what is what and working with people is what is going to set us up for that learning mindset and also to be able to take any technology on. Because if you today you're relying on ChatGPT or Claude, tomorrow it'll be something else. Right? I had a question for you, Sujata.
Yes.
You moved away from Texas.
Yes.
You have lived all your career in West Coast. So what are the myths you hear about Texas techies? I'd love to hear. Because, Silicon Valley feels that, or they are the holy grail of whoever wants to be a techie.
Yeah.
But, we have strong presence here too.
Yes.
What is it that you hear?
No.
What is-
Actually,
If chat, the students can actually take part in the survey
yeah.
that
This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just click on it and it will.
Yeah.
Students, can you please kind of sign up with that, and Dr. Mehra will be running the classes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you zoom a little bit?
I can try. Yeah. Okay. So, I know you ask in jest, but I only hear good things about, Austin and Dallas and Khan Academy actually is fully remote. And we have a lot of software engineers, content creators in Texas. We've recently launched courses specific to, the Texas state standards, TEACS. So we work very closely with a lot of districts and organizations here. We have software engineers, content creators. The product manager on one of my team lives just north of Dallas. So I don't hear anything negative. I in fact hear that this is a happening place. So is Austin, for that matter. I was talking to Dr. J earlier. Jay, you don't have to call him. Yeah. And he says it's a very thriving community, and we see that. Yeah.
I say it in jest, but I wanted the students to understand that there is opportunity.
Oh, yes.
Globally.
Yes.
And so, if you were interviewing somebody from any place in the world.
Yeah.
It's the same cadence, right? So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get some.
Absolutely.
When you're hiring,
Yes.
what is it that you look for? And how can all these students compete in this global market?
Yeah.
Maybe you can say something.
No, that's a good question, Mani. So for us, I think, we are a not-for-profit organization. We are quite small, right? So obviously, when you come to Khan Academy, you're not coming to make money. You're not coming to make a name for yourself. You're truly passionate about the mission. So that's the first thing we look for. And then we look at kind of what your mindset is. So as I mentioned before, right, you have to be thirsty about, wanting to solve the right problem. If you come in and say, hey, I applied because you're using generative AI and that's what I want to do, then that's not going to be a right candidate for us, because tomorrow it could be some other technology. Then are you going to leave? And we don't want that. So it's the mission, it's your mindset, it's your passion for, the end users' problems. That's what we look for. And even when we interview, right, if like Sridhar and I were talking about, do you use React? Yes, we use React, but you don't need to know React to come and work at Khan Academy. You can learn it after coming to Khan Academy. Again, we are an edtech organization. Learning is what we do. So we do expect you to come in and onboard and learn things. So I think some of the concepts still are really helpful. And again, I was chatting with Dr. J about this, right? Multi-threaded applications. I still need to remember some of those concepts, because, as you're building a backend systems, should it be single-threaded? Should it be multi-threaded? What if you're managing events? Should it be synchronous, asynchronous? All of these concepts, you're not going to get it if you just vibe code a solution, right? You vibe code something, you launch it, and then suddenly you realize it's not performing. How do you know it's not performing? Where do you start debugging that? That is when I think the fundamentals come in. State machine, right? We learned automata theory. I still remember the name of the book. It was V. Kohavi who was the author. I don't know if you all still follow that book. Yeah. But you need to know that when you're managing a user state, right? How do you manage that? How do you manage the session moving from, page to page, the context, things like that? That is things that I learned in undergrad and grad school.
Very important. I can add one more thing. I was an electrical engineering major, but I did digital systems. So Dr. Benki made us build Unix system 6. I remember really starting from scratch and building the entire Unix system. To this day, if you're talking about any system, how things work, how files are processed, whatever it is, the concepts are universally the same because you've learned it, it's in your bones. And now, of course, you can extrapolate and expand it to how where the storage is, how everything is maintained. It really makes a difference when you get that deep knowledge.
Did you get the response you're looking for the survey?
Wait a little bit. Anybody else have any questions? Not, that's.
Thank you.